everyone. Yes, as Susie said, my name's Petty Officer David McPherson. So I work at HMCS Queen Charlotte. That's our Navy Reserve unit. And to my port side is my colleague there, Master Sailor Jamie Donaldson. And over on the starboard side.
How are you doing? Sergeant Matt McDonald. I'm with the full-time branch of Canadian Armed Forces. And we're here to let you know what opportunities are available. So.
Yeah, so this is basically we're very guilty of having way too much information all the time. So this is a very compressed version of a presentation that we would give to universities or employment agencies or even high schools. Let me see if I can actually control my presentation. I see an arrow there. Oh, this is wonderful. All right. So yeah, like I said, at any point, if anyone has any questions, we'll try to monitor the chat as well, and we'll leave all of our contact information in there. But yeah, just to familiarize people with what we do as the armed forces on a day-to-day basis, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Our boss is the Canadian government. We fall under the Department of National Defense. And so we're very much we're all part of the federal government. We're employees of the Canadian government. And as a reservist, as I found out while I was attending university, is that you have the flexibility to work part-time when you're only available to work part-time. And when you are available to work full-time, you can jump right into it and work full-time if you'd like. So myself and Jamie, we actually both joined while we were at university because we had heard of a couple other people doing it, and there's a reimbursement money for doing post-secondary studies, and I was able to continue accessing that through my master's. And that was I would work full-time in the summertime and part-time throughout the school year. So that's kind of the whole design of the reserves, is that it follows that. And just on the slides there, these are pictures of the relief effort post Fiona here on PEI, so just up-to-date stuff. And that's the picture of the gym with all the military cots laid out. That is actually our gym here at HMCS Queen Charlotte on the waterfront, and all the vehicles that came over from Gagetown, New Brunswick, were stationed at our unit, and there they are clearing debris at Birchwood School, and just a couple of people showing their appreciation. So we'll get into it a bit more, but all that to say is that the misconceptions I was talking about earlier is that a lot of people, always equate Canadian Armed Forces with combat, right? Or the combat trades. Well, for Matt McDonald here, he has over 100 occupations that are available for people to enroll in the regular force, and only 10 of those are combat related. So in every part of the armed forces, whether it's the Navy, Army, or Air Force, there's a lot of support occupations. So on that, Jamie's job is?
I'm a human resource administrator. So I work in HR for the military, and it's pretty much, it's an office type job, and it's allowed me to work at different reserve units across the country. But at the end of the day, I am working in an office as a human resource when I'm not recruiting.
Yeah, and we love our paperwork in the military. So there's probably more human resource administrators and financial services administrators than anywhere else. And on that note, the other unique part about the employment part with the armed forces is that it doesn't necessarily have to be your full-time employer. Like I was alluding to, it can be complementary. So you could join as a reservist, as a financial services administrator, and then end up working with CRA or one of the other with Grant Thornton. And it can be complementary to your career path, because we're offering training all the time. And I'm going to pass it over to Sergeant Matt McDonald to talk about the regular force.
Right on. Thanks, Dave. I have all kinds of different, as Dave mentioned, programs that we can offer for the regular force. We're the main support, the main branch of the force. Approximately 65,000 in benefit with the regular force is that we can offer a trade. We can offer a profession. If somebody wants to come and be a doctor, we can pay a scholarship for somebody to go through. We can offer college diplomas that we can pay a salary for someone to go to school, 17 different programs to take skilled trades, and they're guaranteed employment. We pay salary and all expenses, academic expenses. Or if somebody wants to come in and come right out of school and start fresh, we can also go that route as well. Myself, I'm signals background. I grew up in Sherwood, actually, just around the corner from Rob there. And I've been I'm in my 32nd year in this organization. So I've worked in 7 to 10 Canadian provinces. I've done a variety of things from IT management to the recruiting side of it. And yeah, if anybody's interested in almost any job that you find in the civilian world, as Dave mentioned, we have our combat trades, but we also take a whole host of jobs that are required or occupations that are needed to support those trades. Hence medical school or technical trades. So we can offer all of those. It's a pretty good way to get an education and some money in the bank and job experience. So that's about all I'll mention there, and I'll turn it back to Dave. So
Yeah, and as part of the, the public service, which we do technically fall under, it's very low barrier for the application process, which we're going to get to in a moment, but I'll let Jamie speak to a little bit more of the unique aspects of the reserves first.
So Sergeant Matt McDonald was discussing the regular force, and what Dave and myself we're in the reserves, which I didn't even know existed until a friend of mine told me about it in my first year of university. And the primary reserves, our main purpose is to support the regular force in whatever means we can. And your minimum time requirement as a reservist is during the academic year, so from September till early May, you are required to work one Wednesday evening a week and one Saturday per month. So that is your absolute minimum time requirement you need. So when we say part-time, we really mean part-time. And then during the spring, summer, that's when the majority of students will actually go away and do the majority of their training. You don't need to go away for all 4 months. You could do, May, June, or you could do July, August, or it depends on what your schedule looks like. And the good thing about being a reservist is that you stay within your community, as opposed to the regular force, who might get contracted to go somewhere that is a little less desirable. And like I said, you can train full-time during the summer or whenever you do have the availability. And after you do complete your basic training or your boot camp, as people more commonly hear it called, you can get up to $2,000 a year for up to 4 years while you're in college or university. And no skills are required to join. And we have, at the Navy Reserve Unit specifically, we have about 8 to 10 occupations you can choose from. And if you're wondering what those occupations might be, we're short on time, so you could reach out to Dave or myself and we can go more in depth about the occupations.
Yeah, and the first line there, it says support the regular force, but that actually goes both ways. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize is how fluid it is. So if you join the reserves and you think it's the cat's pajamas, well, you finish university, you can join the regular force, and vice versa. A lot of members at our reserve unit here were posted to PEI at the end, so that means they were moved back to PEI, had a paid move, finished their full-time career, and then shifted into the reserve. So it's a job anywhere you want, and I've had a job when I showed up in Montreal or Vancouver right away. So, and a good network of people to either. And the eligibility requirements, we get lots of questions of this every time we go to UPEI, but they're pretty straightforward. So it's 16 years old, you are able to join the reserves is a requirement, as enrolling into the Canadian Armed Forces follows the exact same procedure as you would at a citizenship ceremony. And education, the way I described this in my presentations, is the more education you have, the more windows are open for you, i.e. there are a lot more occupations to choose from the more education you have, but the minimum for looking at some of the occupations we have available is to have a grade 10. And that is what our aptitude test is based off of, which is one of the first parts of the application process. So the application process for the armed forces is essentially the same if you're joining the reserve or the regular force. Here at HMCS Queen Charlotte, after people fill out their online application, we can typically complete their entire application process in 2 visits. So we have one aspect of the reserve application process that's a little different, is that we get you to do your physical fitness test. So that's the one that every member of the armed forces has to do every year. We get you to do that right away. Whereas in Matt's world,
We do it at basic training.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone isn't successful passing it, actually, they send them for remedial fitness training. We have specialized trainers that work with people for up to 90 days to get them to meet the standards. So.
well, yeah, everything else is essentially the same, except when it comes to enrollment. If you're enrolling in the regular force, you know, that's a much bigger commitment. You're signing legal document that you're into a contract from anywhere from 3 to even 17 years, potentially, if you're joining as a pilot going into university. But for the reserves, we don't have to move you anywhere. So it's an indefinite period of service. If you stay with us for a week, if you stay with us for 30 years, it's all good. The length of service is indefinite. So yeah, the part of my job that I like with our application process is that it's very transparent. You do the online application, you meet right off the bat, you sign a conditional offer of enrollment, which says, if you meet these conditions, the aptitude test, the interview, and you receive the security clearance required for any federal employee, you will get a job. We have unlimited jobs to fill all year round. And it's not one of those processes where you wait around to see whether you get an interview. If you complete the required conditions, you automatically get an interview. And it's very, very transparent. And we have people working full-time to walk people through there. And for benefits, I've whittled this down considerably with Jamie. So there's a little bit of shock doctory, boring benefits. Also happen to be some of the more important ones. So pension, dental, we had a member from UPEI that contracted a parasite when she was traveling in Central America. She had to be flown over to Halifax. The Military Family Resource Center paid for her whole family to be accommodated in Halifax while she was there. It had nothing to do with her service in the reserves, but just to say that there are pretty tremendous supports out there. And then the exciting benefits, well, you know, who's going to turn down a discount at Helly Hansen or Lululemon or Lone Oak? Recreational benefits, lots of those. We all get an hour allotted every day for working out, which is why we may have finished a little ahead of Grant Thornton in the corporate relay. No big deal. Just unfair advantage, we'll say. And tangible benefits, good paying job, which is part-time when you need it to be part-time and full-time when you're available. That's pretty much it for us, Susie.
Wonderful, great. Thank you so much for bringing all of those opportunities to light, as I am also learning about the 2 different reserves and the very much, I'm missing the word right now. The fill in, anyone fill in for me? Yeah.
It's normal. No, just the nuances between reserve and full-time. And and the options, I guess, that go along with it.
Yes, and stereotypical, like the stereotypical thing we think of Canadian Armed Forces and the other part to that. So thank you for sharing all of those opportunities. Again, save your questions till the very end. We have one more presentation. Thank you so much for all of your